I want to talk about this idea of sorting your life out. How do you sort your life out? How do you make your life better? How do you overcome your problems? How do you stop being a loser or having issues? Like, how do you manufacture the life that you want, or at least a better life than you've currently got? Now, firstly, it's not easy, and it feels like it should be, because there's so many books written on the subject of how to improve yourself, you know, self-improvement, self-development type books. There's so many articles on the internet if you search Google, so many videos on YouTube if you search YouTube. Just so many people are desperate to get ahead, to be better, and there's people delivering solutions left, right and centre to do this. So you would think, okay, well, there's all these resources out there. Why aren't I amazing? You know, if I've gone away and I've watched 50,000 YouTube videos that tell me how to improve whatever aspect of life I want improving, or if I've read, you know, 1,000 books on, you know, how to make my life better, why isn't my life better? So I'm kind of coming from that perspective, you know, like, and I'm just going to talk from my own personal experience here, so it just makes it easier to reel this off the top of my head. So I'm coming from a place of having tried things. You know, I have bought the books. You know, I've gone away and, you know, read books like Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or How to Stop Giving a Fuck, or whatever that book was called. Yeah, I've done the book thing, you know. I've tried to understand the world. I've tried to understand my life. I've read the Psychology Today articles in order to try and understand myself, and I've seen the therapists. You know, I've spoke to other people over the course of decades of existing on this earth as an adult, and yeah, done the whole YouTube thing, you know. Let's see what the likes of Jordan Peterson or Anthony Robbins, or, you know, some kind of guru that's going to teach you how to live your life in a successful, better way. Let's see what they say, you know, and you watch the video, or the 10 or the 10,000, and then you think, okay, I've assimilated this information, but my life is still not what I want it to be. And then I kind of realised that perhaps it's not through a lack of knowledge. It's not that I don't have the knowledge, at least the second-hand knowledge that I've absorbed from others. Perhaps it's just I either don't have the first-hand knowledge, you know, the actual experience of doing actual things, or there is something fundamentally wrong with me. And this is the trouble. I think some people are quite good at listening to a bit of advice, going away, implementing that bit of advice, and then improving their life, and then happy days, away you go. You know, they've done what needed doing, and they'll attribute their success to the writings of someone else. Obviously, you know, they had to take responsibility in the first steps in order to do the thing that was prescribed to begin with. So it's not all on the original author or the original advice giver to have made that change for someone. But yeah, when you're like me, okay, so I know I don't look it. People always say, you know, bro looks like he's 12 years old, you know, in these kinds of videos. But I'm actually 43 years old in about 2 weeks' time, which is crazy. Like, I'm a middle-aged man, which I find is hilarious because I don't look it and I don't feel it. And even my life circumstances aren't of the middle-aged man. You know, I don't have teenage kids, and I don't own my own house and have a successful career. I'm not married, all that kind of stuff. So it's very weird for this number to be associated with me when, like, my life in no way, shape or form is anything like this number would suggest. You know, I don't even have the personality of a 43. Like, I don't have the sort of the confidence and the sort of worldly experience. Like, I've lived in the world, I've done things, you know, I know what it's like to go on a date, have my first day at work, to have, you know, travelled abroad, or, you know, I've done things with my life, but I don't feel like I've got my shit together, and that's what I'm talking about here. And it's just a very strange situation to be in. And you start to sort of ask yourself, well, why has this happened? Now, I'm not coming to this fresh. It's not like I've suddenly arrived at the age of 43 years old and I've looked at myself and thought, so how did I get to this? Like, what, it's not like I've been going through life in a kind of daze, just on autopilot and never questioned what I've been doing. No, I have literally spent most days of my life self-reflecting and analysing why I am the way I am, and typically in a negative sense. Why am I not successful? Why do I not have the things I want? Why do I still have problems that need solving? I'm not a newbie to this idea of sort of reflecting on changing and trying to change. Every day of my life has been not every day, but a lot of the days of my adult life has been an attempt to try and change things for the better within what's actually possible for me personally, like environmentally, like externally what's possible, and internally inside my brain, what I feel like I can actually cope with, or what I can actually cope with. Because we're all different, obviously. Some people can do things that other people can't. Just as a quick side tangent to make that point, I like rock climbing, I like bouldering. I don't think anything of going to a bouldering wall, which is pretty high. It's like basically the equivalent of climbing in the first story window of a house type of thing, which obviously if you fall, land on your neck, you're dead. Obviously bouldering, typically there are bouldering mats, you're somewhat safe if you do fall, but you could still break a leg, twist an ankle. You could break your neck. It's not impossible. You could break a wrist and arm. Anyway, there's a degree of risk there, and there's also a degree of skill in getting up the wall. You're not climbing a ladder. You're having to literally find rock climbing holds in a certain position, configuration, in order to get to the top. And I'm of an intermediate level where most newbies that come into that start off could never do the sort of stuff that I'm doing on the climbing wall. They could never complete the routes, get to the top of the routes that I climb. It's just too technically challenging, perhaps even physically challenging. So my point is, some people can't do what other people can do. Some people can't climb. Doesn't mean I'm better than anyone else, doesn't mean I'm trying to show off. I'm just making the point that for people to turn around and say to me, bro, just go get a job, just simply, whatever I need to do. I'm kind of covered on the relationship front, but let's just say I didn't have a girlfriend or something. Bro, just go out and talk to girls. Or if someone said to me, bro, just go out and earn some money, just go out and make some friends, just go out and have a good time, be happy, as though it's that easy. I kind of want to turn around to people and say, all right, I tell you what, why don't you come rock climbing with me? And then when I start doing the difficult climbs, the difficult routes, and then I jump down afterwards, I'll invite you to go up and try those routes. And then I'll say, bro, just climb the wall. It's not hard. Like I'm not an athlete. I'm not technically, physically or mentally superior to you, am I? Therefore, bro, just do the route. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit pissed off. I'm a bit pissed off that people think it's just so easy, because for them it is. And people will say, this kind of pisses me off as well. People will say, dude, I know how hard it is to, for example, get a job. I know how hard it is to do it because it was hard for me. And, there's days where I wake up in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed, but I roll out of bed and do the job regardless. And, I hate it, but, it has to be done. You have to go out and do it. Yeah. I mean, it could be that, I've had the opportunity to, earn money through self-employment, and so I wasn't forced to have the employed job that I fucking hated. But even if I did, I've been in positions before where I have had the employed job. I have had to do the whole hating the job, rolling out of bed in the morning, and then just the entire day just either trying not to put my fist through the computer monitor if it was a desk job, or run someone over if it was a driving job, or simply just not spend the majority of the day sobbing and crying because I hate what I'm doing so much. Like, yeah. I mean, I said it in a video about a couple of videos back, you know, I'd tend to look out the window where people would assume I'm just having a little bit of a daydream and I'm, you know, off with the fairies. But I'm very consciously thinking something. That's the thing that I'm thinking is, like, if I jump out of this window right now, will it be enough to kill me because I'm hating my life that much? And I'm not even joking, but yeah, one person's definition of it's hard to do X, you know, whatever X is very different from someone else's definition of hard. Like, you know, some people think, when, you know, like, if something's difficult for you, you know, when you're thinking that this is a really hard thing to do, you know, what do you do? Do you A, just give up and then do something else? Do you B, persevere anyway? Or do you C, feel as though giving up isn't an option, persevering and doing the thing isn't an option, and therefore perhaps killing myself is the only way out? Because if you don't typically go to that extreme, which most people don't because it sounds fucking crazy, if you don't think, all right, I'll just kill myself then, like, you don't know what it's like for someone that does go to that extreme. And it's not, it sounds like they're crazy, but I don't think they are. I think they literally are having a harder time of it, and everyone else is just judging because they're just seeing the world through their own eyes, through their individual filter in their mind, and they're saying, well, if I was in that situation, there's no way I would, you know, think about killing myself just because I don't like my job, or just because I've had an argument with my spouse, or just because I can't get a job, or whatever it is. Like, they just can't comprehend it. They can't comprehend that they would ever deal with that. So if someone else's reaction is that extreme, then that person must be crazy. They must be completely mad. And yeah, it's not normal. So therefore, you know, the things that aren't normal are considered crazy. So, you know, if there are things that affect your life, your ability to do what other people do find normal, what is considered normal, then yeah, you do tend to be diagnosed with a mental condition. So I'm not necessarily denying that there's something wrong there, but I'm making the point that there is something wrong there. There is something not normal, and it's not just through like a character flaw or laziness or like a bad habit or something like that. You know, like a lot of things that people will chalk it up to. I think so many people, and I've got a bit of an issue with this. So many people will just say that, okay, if you're struggling, if you're depressed, if you're finding things difficult, like that difficult where you basically can't cope with it, that you are inferior, you're a bad person, you're a weak person, you're a pointless, pitiful, shitty excuse for a human being, and therefore I'm going to hate you, or I'm going to shame you, or I'm going to advocate that other people shame you. Read the comments in certain videos where people are complaining that they're struggling with something. Most people, luckily, will probably say, look, I know what it's like, you know, best of luck, I hope you figure out how to get over the things you're struggling with. But there'll always be like 10% of people that just, you know, like, you think, why did they even click that kind of video? But there'd be 10% of people that just say, you know, shut the fuck up, stop whinging, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get on with it. Stop moaning, stop, you know, like, I hate you. I hate that you feel like you have the luxury to stand around moaning and complaining when I didn't have that. You know, when I was 15 years old, I was kicked out of my house and I had to find a job. Or, when I was 21 years old, I decided I was going to get married by the time I'm 22, and I did that, and therefore if I did it, anyone else can do it too. Whatever, you know. Just to those people, shut the fuck up. Seriously, like, I'm so sick of it, and I get it. Like, there's even a bit of an urge within me when I see someone acting in a pathetic way to just think, fucking hell, like, get over yourself. Like, I get it, I do, I even understand that reaction. But I don't think it's helpful to the person to say that to. Okay, so I've got a girlfriend, she's great. She has issues with things that I don't have an issue with. Something like most girls do. If a mouse comes in the house or there's a spider, you know, it's not untypical for women, men as well, you know, I'm not discriminating here. Some people are going to freak the fuck out over it. You know, they're going to jump up on the table, they're going to squeal like, you know, 3-year-olds and go and flap around. Ah! I don't act like that. I'm very much in control. I'm just like, okay, it's a spider. You know, if I don't want to handle it, it's like I'll get a cup and I'll scoop it up and I can throw it outside. You know, or a mouse or whatever. You know, whatever. It's like, okay, there's a bit of a problem, we need to sort it out. But I just feel like you've got to be a massive cunt if your wife is reacting like that, and like your first reaction, instead of just sorting it out, is to say to her, you stupid bitch, how dare you be scared of that stupid mouse? What the hell is wrong with you? It doesn't scare me, therefore it shouldn't scare you. There's something obviously fucking wrong with you. You're a perfect piece of shit. Go away and feel bad about yourself. Like, if that's your partner and they're saying that to you, I'll just tell you now, your partner's an arsehole. So yeah, I just don't think that helps to say that. There are times, like, I'll give some credit here. There are times when people don't take responsibility, when people are being pathetic, and perhaps the metaphorical slap round the face in order to like, snap them out of it is required. Like, every situation is going to have to be different. You're going to have to work out when those times are necessary. I mean, even a not even a metaphorical slap. Like, let's just say there was some emergency. There's an earthquake happening. Buildings around you are literally collapsing, and you need to get the fuck out of the buildings, and you need to get out into the countryside, up onto the hills where the earthquake, out of town, where the earthquake isn't just going to cause buildings to just collapse on you and end up killing you or whatever. Like, or whatever. I'm just saying. I don't know why I said earthquake. I've never dealt with an earthquake, but yeah, we can imagine, can't we? And let's just say that my wife, or my actual girlfriend, let's just say she started getting hysterical, and instead of running out of the building, she went into kind of a freeze mode where she couldn't do anything. It's like, for her own safety at that point, you're going to have to do whatever is required to save, or I'd have to do whatever is required to save her life, even if it meant a slap around the face or literally manhandling her, to get her out of it. And then after all is said and done, if she hates me and wants to get a divorce after it, it's like, well, I would rather a divorce than have you dead. And obviously, if she was going to if my partner was going to divorce me over the fact that I slapped her in order to take her out of a hysterical state so that I could save her life, if the stakes were that high, then she wasn't the right one for me anyway. She wouldn't be the right one for anyone. That's obviously the wrong reaction. Obviously, I'm not advocating that men go out there and start slapping their wives about, for minor indiscretions. As funny as that might be, don't do it. It's not good. It's not legal. It's not morally the right thing to do. Imagine it. Have a chuckle to yourself when, the missus is nagging in your ear, and just imagine giving her a little backhander, and it might make you laugh, but just get up and walk out. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. So, okay, sorting your life out. I am going to be the example here. I need to sort my life out. Things aren't right with me, and I'm trying to make the argument that it's not all my fault. I mean, as soon as you do that, people think you're a piece of shit. You're making excuses. You're not accepting responsibility, which I think is the wrong thing to do. I think you should be able to just say what is true. So I've identified myself as being someone who is highly neurotic, and this is based on like multiple personality tests that I've taken, the big 5 personality model tests that you can take, that basically section out different facets of your personality and give you a score rating out of 100, sort of to see sort of where you fall compared to the rest of the population. Personality, I think we're pretty much agreed, you know, psychologists, scientists, people that study human behaviour and humans in general, anthropologists or whatever, I don't know who studies personalities, mostly psychologists, I guess, and maybe psychotherapists. Anyway, the jury's kind of not really out. I think we know now that your personality is pretty much fixed, especially by the time you become an adult, say by 25. And at that point, you can adjust the sliders. You know, if you're very introvert, you could become a bit more extrovert by engaging in extrovert things and sort of overcoming certain fears and stuff. But ultimately, you know, doing extrovert activities is going to just drain you. It's just that the effect it's going to have on you. You know, if you're just a lazy person by the time you're that age, it's going to be very difficult for you to be the sort of person who's going to have this military style, you know, get up, make your bed, you know, have your morning routine and optimize and do a million jobs every day and just be super proactive. It's never going to happen for certain people. I mean, does anyone, I wish someone would watch this video so that they can point me to the contrary, if there is a contrary to what I'm saying here. But I do believe that there is, you know, people talk about neuroplasticity. There is margin for error and change, and you can adjust the sliders somewhat with your personality. But if you're, you know, super high neurotic, you're someone who, you know, worries, is stress sensitive, I don't think overnight or even within the space of a year, you can become someone who's totally chill as fuck. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think if you're someone who is very hyper-organised and conscientious, say, that you can become the opposite of that unless you have like brain damage. Not that you would ever want that, but it's kind of funny that when you think of the Big 5 personality model, I don't think anyone's ever mentioned this, but it's funny how you almost attach a sense of morality to each of these 5 facets of personality. So I'm just going to go through them again quickly in case no one knows what they are. So conscientiousness, you know, basically stuff like work ethic, organisation, sense of duty, that kind of shit. The more you have, the better. You know, there is a moral dimension to this. And then openness is the next facet, which is like sort of creativity, open-mindedness, that kind of thing. People generally think the more, the better. Although obviously there are times when having a very sort of one-dimensional, conservative, basic bitch worldview actually gets you results in the world, and too much creativity, too many ideas can actually be a bad thing, basically. And then you've got this extroversion / introversion. You know, what is better? People, again, morally, people value extroversion because you're going to be more social, you're going to be better typically at communication and dealing with people. You'll want to be around people and you'll probably develop skills that allow you to do that. Whereas the bad thing is if you have a need to be around people, you know, that can be quite difficult when there are times when you just need to be alone, you need to get on with it, you need to get your head down, get on with things. It can actually be a bit detrimental, but generally society values extroversion above introversion, in most societies anyway. And then you have neuroticism, which is basically sensitivity to stress. I've tried to outline in previous videos there are actually advantages to being highly neurotic. You know, like if you're a perfectionist, for example, you're going to achieve a higher standard of work compared to other people. Perfectionism is often a sort of byproduct of being stress sensitive, you know, because you don't want to stress out, you don't want to feel like you're not doing a good job, so you do an extra good job, and that can actually help you. I suppose high neuroticism and high conscientiousness are sort of the things that would allow for perfectionism, you know, combinations of traits. Anyway, I think there's agreeableness as well, that's the last one. So whether or not you're agreeable, typically it means more empathetic, ability to allow others to get their way so that you kind of keep the peace, allow for more social cohesion. Being disagreeable means that you're difficult to get on with, but it also means that you're probably going to be more determined, and you're going to be more of a go-getter. You're going to go out and get what you want, and you're going to not be hampered by indecision and other people trying to sort of hold you back. You're going to be quite headstrong, which can be good. I suppose on a moral sense, with this big 5 personality thing, you basically, like the most moral way to be would be highly conscientious, probably like fairly high openness, but not so open that you're off with the fairies kind of thing. And then you want to be sort of middle agreeability / disagreeability. And then neuroticism, generally fairly low, maybe like down to sort of like 10 to 20% neuroticism. And then introversion, extroversion, you want to be like 70% extrovert. And I think if you kind of have those kind of traits lined up, you'll be perceived as having the perfect personality. But personality is a weird thing, because you're basically born with whatever you've got, and then you just have to play your cards. You're given a hand, and you have to play your cards the best you can based on the hand that you've been dealt. It's the same with personality, but you can adjust it to some degree, as far as I know. Like I say, if anyone thinks that I'm wrong there, let me know. So yeah, all of this, everything I'm saying is to lay the groundwork for answering the question of how do you then sort your life out? How do you then improve your life? How do you solve all these problems? Because you are who you are. You're going to have the life experiences that you've had. You're going to be the person you are, and you can only move from where you are. You can't change your situation. You can't change the external. You can't necessarily change the internal that much. And I know a lot of people believe that they can. I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced. Most people will say, yes, you can change your life, but I don't think you can, because I've spent my life trying to change my life, and I can see that some aspects of it have changed. Talking about the rock climbing and the bouldering, 20 years ago I didn't know how to do it. I'd never done it before, and now, even though I'm not of a professional level or even an advanced level, despite the fact that I've been doing it, at least once a week for the last 10, 12 years, I'm at an intermediate level. It's like, obviously something changed within my brain to enable me to be at least somewhat skilled at something that I wasn't before. And therefore, there obviously is room for change, but I don't know how you kind of quantify that when equally you are kind of who you are. Now I want to talk a little bit more about this, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave it there in this video, and then if you're happy to watch any more of my videos, I want to discuss this a little bit more, because I think there's more to be discussed here, but I don't want to overload anyone with too much talk. So I'll leave it here, and I'm just going to finish by saying, what do you think of this idea of being able to sort your life out based on just the things I've been saying? Like, do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that it's actually easier than I'm sort of making out? Do you think that perhaps I'm right, and it's good that I'm mentioning the fact that things are harder than most people would imagine? Do you think that maybe people just don't want to feel like they have no control over their lives, because it's too scary to think that, and therefore they say, oh yeah, you can change, you can do this, What's going on there? Yeah, sorting your life out. Is it easy? Is it hard? I don't think it's easy at all. And I think that fact should be acknowledged in the wider sphere, and considerations around each individual's set of internal and external circumstances should be appreciated before anyone starts dishing out advice. That's just what I believe. So what do you think?